Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to start or take your dental practice to the next level. So I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com, and today we're going to bring you a world-class influencer, consultant from the dental industry. His name is Jayme Amos. He's fantastic. He's a good friend of mine. We're going to pick up his brain about some of the barriers involved with going from not having a practice to being a practice owner to becoming a successful practice. And in this episode, we are going to cover a few things. Number one, we're going to talk about how to break free from financial ties and earn what you're worth. We're going to talk about the biggest thing holding back most practice owners from advancing into the business and their lives. We're going to talk about when you're going to be ready to actually make that move from being an associate or a student into being a practice owner. And it even applies if you haven't even opened the practice up yet. While knowing just the next step or two is critical in overcoming fear as a dentist and a business owner. So being prepared for what that next step is going to be. Listen to that one. That's a great little tidbit. We're talking about how Jayme discovered his calling into the dental industry. We went on to how to protect yourself in an associate to partner relationship and some of the people that we've seen get honestly screwed over by that. We talk about what to do when you think you're ready to become a practice owner, the perfect path to take, what metrics will help guide you in those things. The step most doctors don't spend enough time on. They kind of skip past this. They don't think about it. They just think about get it open, get it open, get it open. We talk about the ideal patients. We talk about how to find your target market. We talk about the population to doctor ratio and myths involved and things like that. We talk about how to serve your patients and staff properly, what the Constitution says about you and your practice, why you shouldn't start your practice by just finding a location and opening it up. We talk about how to create a smoother path to success, to fulfill your life goals, have a greater impact on people's lives, have a better financial outcome, spend less marketing dollars, and finally, why having good people on your team helps you drastically improve your life and business. That's a lot of notes for today. So we've got a lot of things to cover. It's a really great episode. Make sure you listen in. If any of those things sound like something you're looking for, make sure to listen into this episode with Jayme Amos. At the end of the show today, I've created a special real-world scenario walkthrough that extends the episode to kind of give you a how-to of what I would do based off of today's information. So to be sure to listen in to the end to find out how you can get that information for free. So now, on to today's interview with Jayme. Jayme, a little bit about Jayme. He is the best-selling author of Choosing the Right Practice Location, host of Dentistry's Ideal Practices podcast, and the founder of howtoopenadentaloffice.com, where thousands of readers every month read his blog and his information-packed articles. He has publications on Dental Town, the quarterly ADA newsletter, Dental Entrepreneur Magazine, Ignite DDS, and tons of other outlets in the dental world. He is all over the place. He does a great job. His firm works across the country helping dentists step into practice ownership. His consulting team guides doctors through all 13 stages of opening dental practices. And over the last 10 years, he's worked with dentists has recognized that their choice of location as having the most impact on a practice's potential for growth. So, Jayme, how about you say hi to all the dentists out there?
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, John. This is, a lot of fun. Really excited to be able to talk with you and be able to brainstorm some ideas. One of the things I really enjoy about working with you and working with docs who know you is that they're focused on things that are going to help create success for them. So it's a huge honor to be a part of the conversation. And I'm thrilled to be able to have a great conversation here. And I hope that everything we talk about is able to be used and is practical and is helpful for people all over the country.
Great. So did I do okay with the intro?
Yeah, great. Maybe the only thing that was perfect, better than I could have done. The only thing maybe I would have left off is something that I kind of laugh about myself with. I've given myself the title. I don't even know if this is legal. I gave myself the title of Chief Advocate for Practice Ownership. And I'm just such a confident, bold, proud supporter of not only small business in general, but practice ownership at large. I love it and I'm passionate about it, and my whole team is excited to help give those nudges and those confidence builders to doctors so they can step into practice ownership too. So we love what we do, and it's a real honor to be able to impact the industry and change people's lives like this.
Fantastic. I'm right there with you. A really famous business marketer, Perry Marshall, believes that the world is leading to another renaissance, and the people that are going to be leading us there are business owners in general. So I'm very much there. You know, being a business owner myself, you being a business owner, I'm sure you can say whenever you own your own business, you can steer, you can steer your ship to wherever you need to go. And there's just a lot of power and, self respect and worth that comes from being a practice owner, and you can make a lot of really significant change in the world by being a business owner. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, a couple of the things, do you mind if I just kind of riff on that philosophically?
Yeah, sure.
So, doctors, as you're listening to this, I would suggest that there are a few different aspects to consider. Some doctors come to my firm, or John, you could probably vouch for this too. A lot of doctors will say, listen, I know I want to do great dentistry. I want to have this thing that we call clinical freedom, where I feel maybe trapped under the umbrella of a different group or a different partnership, where I feel trapped and I want to go pursue this clinical freedom. So that's one thing that we love advocating for and love pushing for, is the freedom to practice the way you want. The other thing that we're really passionate about is helping doctors break free from financial ties and be able to earn what they're worth. I was just talking with a doctor, not to get off track here, but I was just talking with a doctor in Arkansas the other day who said, Jayme, I was talking to one of my other advisors, and we're helping him launch his new practice. He says, talking to one of my other advisors, and they said, well, of course, doctor, you're exceeding 150,000 per year. And he laughed, and real humbly, wonderful man. He laughed real humbly and said, I'd be fortunate to clear half that this year. And this is a guy who's got a decade of experience chairside, and of course, it's not all about money, but being able to break free and earn what you're really worth. His skills and his debt load and his training are certainly worth well more financially than what he's earning now. So we're really passionate about that. But then, like you said, we're also deeply passionate about helping doctors as practice owners make an impact on the world and change people's lives. So if we're not doing that, if we're not impacting the world and changing people's lives, what's it all for? Are we just going to pile up a big stack of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck, right? That doesn't help anybody for anything. Look at the Kardashians. How happy did they look? Right?
Oh yeah. Well, the Bruce or Caitlin, is that her name now? Yeah, she. I have a sneaking theory that she, she's, or he, I'm not sure the nomenclature, was this world-class athlete that was an American star, and now he's in this reality show with his daughters, and his daughters are now more famous than he was, and he actually did something. And so I have a theory that he has this marketing mind that says, what can I do that would make me more famous again? And that, but anyway, I'm sure his intentions are pure and humble.
Well, for whatever it's worth, those are the three things that move me and move my team every day. It's helping doctors earn and create a path for clinical freedom. It's helping doctors earn what they're worth. And then also creating a path and an opportunity for for doctors as practice owners, as business owners, to be able to make change and impact people's lives.
What do you feel like is the biggest thing that's holding those people back to be able to make those types of moves within their lives?
Well, here's something that I'll quote someone who I think is maybe even more qualified than me to answer the question. There's Dr. David Rice, the founder of Ignite DDS. Doctor, as you're listening to this, check it out. Great platform of a resource for articles and conversations, ignitedds.com. The founder, Dr. David Rice, and I were having a conversation last week, and I asked him a very similar question, John, and his answer was fear. He said, you're ready for practice ownership when you look in the mirror and you feel like you're ready. He said, the time will never be better. The costs will never be lower, but you're ready when you look in the mirror and you feel like you're ready. So I think what's holding people back is the fear of the unknown after staring in that mirror and seeing somebody who is ready to make that next move clinically, financially, and professionally in terms of making an impact on the world. You're ready, but you don't know what next steps to take. So sometimes just knowing whatever very next step, the first step or the second step, that next step, not all the steps, but the next step is important. It's important to overcome that fear by taking those first steps. So knowing the first couple of steps is a big fear crusher.
So I want to circle back to that, but let's pull back for a little bit and let's ask a little bit more about you. How did you actually get started in the dental industry?
Sure. Well, it was about 10 years ago, maybe a little more. You know, I'll go back beyond 10 years. I've been working with dentists for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. I have an international business degree. Out of undergrad, I started a company with my cousin. I thought, yeah, this business ownership thing sounds great. I was in boardrooms with Mercedes and Credit Suisse and Dresdner Bank and Goldman Sachs, and I had some opportunities for a career that a lot of people said I was crazy to not pursue. But I wanted to pursue small business ownership. So I did with my cousin, and we did $1 million in our first year, which is, you know, good for us. It was great. We had a great ride. We had a lot of fun, and we hired people. Unfortunately, I was, 22 or 23, and I didn't know any better. And I found pretty quickly that I was managing people 10, 20 years older than me and wondering why I had to motivate them. Now I see that that's just one of the job duties of a business owner.
It sounds like a dental practice, a young dental practice owner is what it sounds like.
Well, you know what? I ended up naming it my adult daycare. I didn't even I got to the point where I wasn't so passionate about my business because I felt like I was running an adult daycare. Mm-hmm. So I sold my share of the business back to my cousin. I started buying real estate up and down the East Coast, commercial and residential. I got involved in deals across the country with multi-million-dollar opportunities, and a lot of really exciting stuff that I got to experience in my early 20s, which, I'm incredibly grateful for. Had a lot of good experiences. And around that time, I after spending some time on these bigger projects with real estate and construction and mm-hmm. Helping small businesses sign leases, I realized that I'd kind of lost some of the passion and the pleasure of that personal interaction on the ground level of business ownership. Mm-hmm. So now, at this point in the story, about 10 years ago, I really wanted to start working hand to hand or knee to knee with business owners again. And with my experience of real estate across the country, I bumped into one of my undergrad roommates, and he had become a dentist, and he had a very successful, thriving practice. And I asked him, I said, Joe, what do you think of the dental industry? Is there any need for somebody who has a skill set like mine, who's passionate about small business, who really knows the real estate world, who's become a quasi-expert in choosing the right sites for locations to help small businesses succeed? But would dentists care? And he basically said, Jayme, stop what you're doing and do this. Dentists all over the country could really use your help. So our first, so that's how I got started. The first client that I worked with was a guy named Dr. Dan Castle. And interestingly enough, I just had him as a guest on our podcast. If anybody wants to check it out, our Ideal Practices podcast, you can go to iTunes, just search Ideal Practices, you'll find it. In there, look for the if you want to listen, our first client was, the title of the podcast is Startup versus Acquisition, because we worked with him to get his startup going, and he had great success, 1-point-something million in the first few years. Mm-hmm. He put together a great marketing plan, great location plan, and he was off to the races. Well, the funny thing about his story is that he sold the practice after just a few years, and then he moved his family to Florida because that was his dream. It was kind of his personal dream, is to move to Florida. But he went from kind of uncomfortable, not so successful partnership where he was successful, but the partnership opportunities as an associate were dissolving. Sure. He was promised. That sounds familiar to anybody. I was promised a partnership as an associate, and it never materialized. So he bailed. He pulled the ripcord and contacted us. We helped him with the startup, created a lot of success, and now he's a multi-practice owner in Florida, where he's getting ready to do another startup. So those are the good stories. Those are the things that make me move and get us excited every day. That's my story.
That's a very, speaking of Dr. Castle's experience of being promised something, that is a part of the reason I started this whole resource, is because I had 2 times I had clients that I was helping with buy into a practice. They'd been promised as an associate they were going to have buy-in, they're going to be able to own the practice or be a significant owner in the practice. And multiple years of associateships, and we went to the buy-in part. We agreed on price. We had all these different factors that would go on, and we'd submit the offers. We'd get, we'd have to go back and work over some of the areas. And we kept getting delayed. We kept getting delayed. We kept getting delayed. And, something smelled rotten in the state of Denmark. And turns out that the owner, rather than fulfilling his promise to the associate, especially in Arkansas, most deals are struck with some spit and a handshake. But the practice owner had actually been shopping it to corporate practices, to corporate dentistry practices, and sold it out from underneath the associate. So,
Wow.
here we are. So and that happened twice in this past year. So it's something that you have to be very careful about. Anytime I talk to any associates now about how, coming on to a practice, because people will reach out to me and ask just general questions. I say, if you're wanting to buy in, you need to get something in your associate contract after your trial period is over, because you have to protect yourself from these things now. So, dealing with the frustrations and the hurt and the investment, the money lost from the associates having to pay, people to do due diligence, for attorneys, for all these other things. It's so emotionally draining trying to buy into a business. And then you're at the 5-yard line and someone comes out and says, oh, by the way, you're not going to get this because these people down the street could pay, 2.5 times what you were willing to pay. It's just devastating.
Well,
so,
we see that a lot too, John. There are stories after stories of people who deal with those kinds of things. But then also, people like Dr. Castle, or there's a woman that we're working with in New York City who she was promised. And the final deal, after she held this guy's feet to the fire, the final deal that she was presented basically gave him 51% ownership in the practice. And I forget, he's 65 or 70 years old. And she says, Jayme, I don't know if I really want to partner officially with a guy who's at that age. And, he's a great clinician, but I don't think I want to allow him to maintain control at that age. And the failed partnership story is, it's pretty sad. And the failed associateship to partnership story is so prevalent. So if that sounds familiar to anybody, just know you're not alone, because that is a very common story. And we get phone calls from people every week, maybe every other day, who say that they're dealing with some sort of failed associateship to partnership opportunity. It's a shame, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So.
And the thing that's really difficult is it seems like most people don't think it could happen to them, because they have this really good relationship with their fellow professional in the medical industry. And whenever money becomes involved, people's intentions and people's morals change. There's a universal truth that everyone believes that they are doing the right thing and that they're moral. No one believes that they're unethical. And if they did, then then they would be the crook in a Disney movie of some kind. So and that's not reality. So if you're one of those people, take that to heart. Don't be scared. There are success stories, but we don't hear about them as much because we deal a lot more with startup practices and the same. So kind of touching back to what you were talking about before, you said that taking first steps is really important. I'm a big believer in the quote, action creates traction. Making a move, getting off and actually making a decision and trying to create change is what is going to allow you to have any type of success. So for a lot of practice owners, for people that are considering practice ownership, what is that first step? What is I think I am ready for ownership. Now what do I do?
Can I answer with what I typically see as the first step, and then what I usually suggest is the right first step?
Fantastic. Yep.
So what I typically see, and a lot of doctors can relate to this, is a practice owner or soon-to-be practice owner who finds a great building. They'll drive through town, or they'll drive through a town and say, that building would be a perfect dental location. Mm-hmm. And I can understand that, because buildings are emotional things. Winston Churchill has a quote that I love that says, "We define our buildings. Thereafter, they define us." And I think that's very revealing in terms of how people look at buildings for their own small business. I know, because I've been there. Choosing a building sounds like a great first step. So that's the first step that I usually see people explore. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I think that's only that shouldn't be considered anything earlier than step 4, or maybe even step 5. So what I like to see is when practice owners are able to reverse all of that back to the point when they start to create their vision. We call it the stage 1 of the 13 stages of opening a practice. We call vision. And after that, we actually quickly accelerate into financing. Some people think that's simple. I actually have found it to be very complex to do it the right way. We could talk about that another time. But shortly after that, we look at demographics and site selection. So site selection would imply your building, but if I were to try and say that a very good, strong first step, it would be looking at your town and looking at demographics opportunities so that you can find the best location, not the best building, but the best location. So starting with where, I think is better. There are 9 other steps that will deal with the how of opening up a practice. But I would say if I were creating a perfect path for someone, I would say perfecting your vision and your why, perfecting your why of how you're going to open your practice, the vision of what you want. Every doctor's vision is uniquely different. I don't think we've ever worked with a doctor who had a very identical clinical strategy or clinical philosophy or financial strategy or long-term goals that they're pursuing. And each of those elements will significantly change their floor plan, will significantly change the amount of rent they can pay or the amount of real estate that they can own. All of those things will change, and they're determined in what we call the vision stage, that first stage. The other very important element that most people don't take seriously enough is defining and pursuing what we call the ideal patient. So in that stage 1, as we look at the ideal patient, we literally ask clients to write down 10, 15 traits of their ideal patient and quite literally name them. Think of, oh, Mrs. Jones, you know what? I love working with her. Why? Why do you like working with her? Well, I just connect with her. Okay, and why else? Well, she pays her bills on time. Great, that's very important. She says yes to treatment plans. I like her family. She lives down the street. She's part of my church, or she's part of my synagogue. Why do you like her? Let's define who she is. And sometimes we'll even say, get a picture of her and pin it up in your private office. And let's find 1 or 2 other ideal patients who we're going to go pursue. So this ideal patient becomes what sometimes business people will call an avatar, right? So it'll become an avatar that we will pursue that person, that created being of a person, all the way through to their grand opening in stage 13 of the 13 stages of opening a practice. We will go pursue that person, and people like them through Facebook, through creative marketing, through social media, through direct mail, through everything. We will specifically target, and we have proven ways to go pursue those very specific ideal patients. So that's a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, sounds like it. There's a lot of business philosophies and marketing mentality out there that I feel is lost in the dental industry sometimes. I talked about them earlier, but Perry Marshall talks a lot about the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. And for anyone that's not familiar with that, there's this financial or socioeconomic theory that you can boil almost anything down to quadrants of 80-20. So in like dental practices, it would say that 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your patients. And you could then further boil that down into, of that 20%, you could then say that of that 20%, and there's another 80-20 principle of, who maybe your favorite patients are, the level of service you provide, how loyal they are, just different mindsets. And the philosophy of finding an ideal patient sounds like that's very in line, because whenever you start focusing on your ideal patient, then guess what? If you're more likely to have them come to you, and if they're coming to you and you're providing a great experience, guess what? Who else is going to come? All of their friends and family. Who, there's another theory that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and so the people that are coming to your practice are going to be spending time with people that are a lot like them, which means you can build a great practice in the philosophies that you build out in that step that you're talking about. Does that sound right?
Yeah, what comes to mind is a doctor that we were working with in Texas who wanted to move to Baltimore, the Baltimore area, one of the northwestern suburbs of Baltimore, and we helped them define their ideal patient, thankfully, because when we moved into the demographics and the location selection process, the doctor wisely had done some great homework. This may sound familiar to some people. I looked online. I found some websites that gave me some interesting demographics information. I wrote it all down in a spreadsheet, and I started doing the thing that Jayme always talks about, which is the ratio, the doctor to population ratio. And a lot of people know that I'm a little bit of a contrarian in that I've bucked some of the industry history and said that this ratio, if you've never heard of it, it's the population to doctor ratio. It's one of the primary site selection criteria when we're looking at a geography. How many patients are in how much population is an area, and how many dentists are in that area, right? We want to look at supply and demand before we get there. So the industry historically, dentistry has said 1,400 to 1, if anybody wants to write that down. A ratio of 1,400 to 1 is adequate, so has said the industry historically. I disagree, 100% disagree. Some people might call it heresy to speak badly against some of the history of the industry, but I think it should be 2,000 to 1, which is much more conservative, right? 2,000 for the doctor community gives much better chances of success, much less competition. So how do we find that? Well, going back to the doctor in Texas who was looking to move into the Baltimore area, he said, Jayme, I'm really excited. I found this one town, I'll leave it nameless, but I found this one town that has a great ratio. It's 3,000 to 1. I'm so excited. I want to move there. I just want to have you give it a thumbs up. I said, okay, well, I'd be happy to do that for you, but we need to align this with your ideal patient. And thank God we did. So what we uncovered was something that shocked both me and him and his wife. We found that he was right, that it was about 3,000. It was actually a little better. It was about 3,500 to 1. But unfortunately, the majority of patients in that population were Medicaid recipients. So that for some practice owners, that's perfect. For some, that's part of their vision, it's part of their financial strategy, and they have a system that can make that very successful. For this doctor, it was very eye-opening, and I'm very thankful that we were able to help him reanalyze a situation that could have given him an outcome that he might not have been happy with.
So let me ask you a question about this. Is it the person that is the ideal patient, or is it the type of procedure that the doctor wants to perform the most? You know, if they have some type of natural curiosity or natural, gift towards, say, implants rather than endo, would you start with the people that typically need implants, or would you start with the people, or would you start with trying to find a person and then say, okay, what kind of procedures does this person need?
Great question. Yeah, at the end of the day, it'll be the same. So at the end of the day, if you're a general dentist and you are very passionate about placing implants and doing all-on-4 restorations, something like that, but whatever your ideal procedure is, it will probably, very likely, align with your ideal patient. Your ideal patient will have said yes to your ideal treatment plan. Some of that we align, and we do a process with our clients that talks about your clinical vision, your financial vision, and your personal vision inside your practice. And your clinical vision, as it's defined, will align naturally with your ideal patient. Because when you're most happy, right? Speaking right to doctors here, when you are most happy chairside, you are able to serve your patients best. So if you're really happy, your staff will be happy. If your staff is happy, everybody can serve patients really well, clinically, financially, emotionally, everything. You can be better for your patients, for your practice, and for your community when you're happiest. So behind me, I have a copy of the Declaration of Independence. I find it fascinating that in our country, we're one of the only countries that has in our Constitution, legally written, we have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right? We're the only country that has literally written into our country laws that says we have the right to pursue happiness. And I think the founding fathers were onto something, because that pursuit of happiness is what gives us value. It's what gives us motivation. It's what helps us be better for the people that we want to serve. And in a dental practice, if you're doing your favorite kind of procedures on your favorite kind of patients, you're going to be best for everybody, including your family and yourself and your finances. So when we can identify the ideal patient, and we can identify what kinds of procedures you like, they're going to naturally cross over and blend together. So
it's really fascinating. You've boiled that down to such a science, and it's whenever I personally have done research for clients and things like that, and you always see demographics be the first thing, but you don't really talk about, and it's always such a statistical model. It's such a quantitative model, and it talks about that ratio a lot. But the mentality concept, the positivity concept you're talking about is really fascinating. So the part one of the step one was to maybe look at your past 10, your past 6 months of being in practice, look at your top maybe 5 to 10 patients that you've enjoyed being around, that if you had your entire practice filled with those types of patients, you'd be hopefully financially profitable and happy personally. So does that sound like a first step of multiple different steps?
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. First step of a first step. I like that.
Exactly. So,
and, for a lot of docs, that feels too fluffy. Like, I don't want to do that. That sounds, I don't want to write things down. I don't want to do that. I already know it in the back of my mind. Okay, I can respect that. I feel similarly about some things in my life. For the doctors who want to go do something practical, actionable, and tangible right away, something that might feel less fluffy, I would still say we're going to have to go backwards, and we're going to have to work on that anyway, doc. But if you really want to go get your hands dirty on something that is maybe a little more practical and actionable, I would then say we would dive right into demographics and looking at what population count is, looking for that ratio, and looking for what we call primary and secondary location selection criteria. So not looking at a building, remember, not starting with the building, but starting with the where of what town and why that town, and aligning that with your vision for your ideal practice. So that will encapsulate and incorporate your financial vision, your clinical vision, and your long-term legacy vision. So that would be the location piece. So we put out a book a few years ago called Choosing the Right Practice Location, and it became a bestseller. It's on Amazon if anybody wants to check it out. John, for your audience, I wanted to invite your listeners and your viewers to something. We're doing a 1,000 book giveaway, and it's by invitation only. So if it's okay with you, it's okay if I give out a URL.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you go to our website, it's howtoopenadentaloffice.com, which is arguably the worst URL in the country, but I also think it's one of the most descriptive. So howtoopenadentaloffice.com/free. If you go there, that you'll see it's an invitation only section of the 1,000 book giveaway we're doing, where if you'll help us offset the cost of shipping, you'll get our $67 Amazon book. It's a paperback book that you'll be able to get a copy at no charge. So take a look at that. That details out the majority of the location selection strategies that could be broad stroked across the industry. It doesn't account for all the minutia of very specific situations where we'd want to analyze some extra details, but it gives very practical, actionable information that you can use for free to help choose your location. So the book has been so well received over the last few years, and we're so honored by it that we wanted to do something big, and this 1,000 book giveaway is one of the things we're doing.
That's great. So anyone listening that is considering that first step of the first step, if you want a resource where you can actually crack open a book, look at more of Jayme's philosophy, I urge you to go and take advantage of this really amazing gift he's giving to our listeners.
Can I mention, some doctors will say, well, Jayme, I could make practice success happen anywhere. And I believe that if you're determined and you're focused on creating success anywhere, it is possible in the human condition to create that success. I like to say I'd like to help people create a smoother, easier, more predictable path to success. And if the location strategy is right, your practice will be better able to fulfill your life goals. You'll be able to make a better impact on people's lives. Financially, you'll be able to have a better outcome, and you're going to spend less marketing dollars to attract new patients. So if we get the location strategy right, the upside is massive. The upside is fantastic if we get it right. If you don't get it right, you're going to have $500-some thousand on the line baked into a location that isn't going to help you succeed long term. You might have a very pretty building that you drove past and said, wow, that's a gorgeous facility. You might have a very pretty building with $500,000 invested in it, but if it doesn't line up with all those other pieces, you're gonna have to fight really hard to create that that self-determined success. I hope that we can have this book create a simpler, easier, smoother path to the success that doctors want.
Absolutely. And I think, from before I was a business owner, before I've always, throughout my professional career, I've been speaking with business owners. But one of the things I would say I underestimated before being a business owner was the amount of time, energy, and effort you have to take and put into account to moving a business forward. It is not, we're not in the day and age of you just go open up shop and everything is magically there. So the more intelligently you can plan this process, the more intelligently you can move forward with this project, the better overall you will be in 5 years and 10 years and 15 years, because you won't be as emotionally drained if you have a really, really great plan and you can leverage the experience of others that have been through this process before to actually be able to succeed better, because your chances of success rise so exponentially whenever you leverage experience of other people doing it. I know, I'm personally have dealt with the thought process. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs in their own mind are, and to be honest, all dentists that go and start their own practice are entrepreneurs in their own right. Maybe they don't, see themselves as that, as they're just kind of following the path that a lot of other dentists take. But, you can't kid yourself. You're an entrepreneur if you own your own business. You're taking care of your family. You're taking care of your employees. You're taking care of your employees' families, and you're taking care of your patients and your community as well. Is that, you think you can do everything on your own, and the faster you can learn to get good people on your team that can create this abundance of experience to be added to your team at, very, very minimal involvement on your own, you can focus on the areas of your life that can really, really drastically improve your life. And whenever your life is better, then your business in itself is going to be better, because you won't be as worried, up late at night, worrying about how your business is going to run. So the things you do for practices are really, really great. And I wish that more people would be able to see in that light. But I think as the way we're kind of triggered, that just sometimes doesn't come across as being the way. So I could probably talk about mental awareness, self-awareness, and all the aspects of being a business owner for a few hours. But we're kind of running a little short on time. So one thing that I wanted to kind of touch on is, if you have any more interest, curiosity in this process, and you want to kind of tap Jayme's mentality, his thoughts, and hear more from Jayme, then I urge you to check out his podcast again, Ideal Practices. You can find it in iTunes. You can reach him on his website. Is there any other really good ways for our listeners or people to be able to reach out to you, Jayme?
Those would be two great ways for people to check things out. We have a very thick blog full of free resources with design training, where we help illustrate the ways that practices should be designing their floor plans. My team does that in-house, but we give free training for that to happen. I do want to point out that if you're thinking about opening up a practice, just know that there are very proven methodologies to decrease your construction spending by 10 to 40%. That's a huge swing. You can decrease your equipment spending by 10 to 25%. You can decrease your marketing costs dramatically, so that every dollar you spend attracts more patients. We use a tool that we have a planning process that we use called 100 New Patients on Opening Day. I like to make sure my practice owners can open confidently at their grand opening ceremony, knowing they have at least 100 patients in the book on that first day. They're not going to see 100 patients that first day, but I want them to be able to advance confidently on that process. And then there are also strategies to purchase real estate even before you open your practice for your business with no money out of pocket. Purchasing real estate with no money down. It's almost unheard of in the commercial real estate world. There are really good tools that we have access to right now that we've developed over a decade that I think are useful, that are powerful, and that are empowering to doctors who want to step into practice ownership. So Do you mind if I give one little other anecdote before we leave?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm from Philadelphia, which sometimes is embarrassing, but but it's, we're the city of brotherly love, but love usually implies sarcasm. So more sarcasm usually means more love, I think.
I'm in I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas, so there's nothing to be embarrassed about from being from Philadelphia. Believe me.
That's great. Well, there's a statue of Rocky. Everybody knows the movie Rocky, and there's this statue of Rocky that most people have seen in the movie at the top of the steps at the Philadelphia Art Museum. That huge, gorgeous old building behind the Rocky statue is the Philadelphia Art Museum. Well, it was an icon in the community, and people would walk up the steps and take their picture. Occasionally, you'd see people doing some poses, or you'd see people jogging up the steps in the early morning. But something interesting happened about 5, maybe 10 years ago. The city, the people involved in the art community, they didn't feel that the Rocky statue was bona fide art in front of the art museum. Fancy that. So they asked to have the statue moved. So the statue moved from the top of the steps at the Philadelphia Art Museum to the bottom of the steps, just to the right. So look it up on YouTube sometime. You'll see that now, all day long, almost every day of the entire year, there's a line going around the corner to get their picture taken with the Rocky statue. So I find it fascinating that this same statue in the same town, next to the same steps at the same museum, had very few people lining up in front of it when it was at the top of the steps, and now has quite literally a line wrapping around the block to have their picture taken with the same blessed statue right out in front of the art museum. There's a case study there, of course. Obviously, we could explore that and we could extrapolate it. But I hope that creates a searing image in people's minds that location does matter, and location will impact your future success and the results that you're going to get out of it. Maybe not the same way as a Rocky statue, but it will have an impact. And if you do it right, you can have the impact benefit you instead of squash your future success. So that's my hope, and I hope that the free book at howtoopenadentaloffice.com/free. I hope people will go there and participate in our 1,000 book giveaway, and I hope it changes some lives and helps people pursue the things that matter most to them in practice ownership.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on, Jayme.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it so much.
Hey guys, a special thanks to Jayme for coming on today and making time for us and giving us so much great information, sharing his experiences and his expertise in the dental industry. So after going through today's show, I thought it'd be really interesting to give you kind of my little 5 steps of what I would do if I were going to be opening up a practice, a startup practice, or looking for a location today for a dental practice, kind of moving that step 1 that Jayme has. Obviously, you should contact Jayme to see if he can help you with your path, to do the steps that he's talked about. But just going off of our interview, people always ask me what I would do. So I'm going to give you kind of a 5-step thing of what I would do if I was a dentist that was starting a new practice today. I'll give you a real quick overview. If you're interested in hearing that and you'd like to know exactly step by step what I would do, text practice to 33444. That's practice, PRACTICE, to 33444. And you'll get a bonus audio walkthrough of how I would advise a client on doing this themselves. Again, last time, that's practice, PRACTICE. Text that to 33444. That's 2 3s and 3 4s. Or you can visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you liked the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.